The world is not a fair place. No matter how honest, hardworking, or talented you are, someone will inevitably betray you, undermine your efforts, or claim opportunities that should have been yours. This is the unfiltered reality of life. Yet, those who grasp this truth don't just endure, they thrive. They don't crumble under the weight of injustice or let emotions cloud their judgment. Instead, they cultivate a sharp, strategic intelligence that allows them to navigate the complexities of human interactions with precision and foresight. This isn't about book smarts or academic prowess. It's about a deeper, more pragmatic form of wisdom, often called dark intelligence, because it operates in the shadows of human behavior, where motives are unclear and outcomes are uncertain. This intelligence is forged in the crucible of adversity, betrayal, humiliation, failure. While others might break under these pressures, the strategically intelligent transform pain into power. They observe quietly, analyze meticulously, and act decisively when the moment is right. Unlike most people, who react impulsively to provocations or setbacks, those with this mindset play a long game. They don't waste energy on petty arguments or emotional outbursts. They don't play checkers, chasing quick wins. They play chess where every move is calculated, every sacrifice deliberate, and every strategy aimed at ultimate victory. Before we dive into the 8 psychological traits that define this intelligence, a word of caution: this knowledge is a tool, not a weapon. It's meant to protect you, to help you navigate a world full of hidden agendas and competing interests, not to harm others or manipulate for selfish gain. The goal is to understand the rules of the game, not to become the villain in someone else's story. To ground yourself in this mindset, consider this affirmation: I choose to be strategically intelligent, not emotionally reactive. Let this guide your approach as we explore the 8 principles that separate survivors from victims, leaders from followers, and winners from those who merely dream of success. These insights, inspired by the timeless wisdom of Machiavelli, will equip you to see through deception, protect your interests, and build influence ethically. You don't lay all your cards on the table. Instead, you reveal only what serves your purpose, leaving others to speculate about the rest. When people know just a fragment of your story, their minds fill in the gaps with assumptions, and those assumptions can become your greatest asset. Machiavelli once said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, but few experience what you really are." This principle isn't about deception, it's about strategic restraint. The most captivating people you know don't spill their entire life story. They drop hints, share selectively, and let mystery do the rest. They might answer a direct question with a thoughtful pause, a subtle smile, or even another question. Never lying, but always controlling the narrative. Consider a casual conversation where someone asks about your plans for the weekend. Most people feel compelled to give a full, honest answer. "I'm just staying home." Maybe catching up on some shows or running errands. It's truthful, but it's also forgettable, blending you into the background of predictability. Now imagine responding with, "I've got a few things I'm working on, should be interesting," before smoothly shifting the topic. This response piques curiosity. It makes you stand out as someone with depth, someone worth paying attention to. The difference lies in what you withhold, not in what you fabricate. This approach shines in professional settings. Imagine starting a new job and immediately showcasing all your skills and ideas in the first week. You might impress initially, but you've also exhausted your ability to surprise. Instead, by revealing your capabilities, gradually offering a brilliant solution here, a unique perspective there, you create a reputation as someone who consistently delivers value. Your colleagues start to anticipate your contributions, and your words carry more weight because they're rare. This isn't about being secretive for the sake of it. It's about understanding that information is a currency. Spend it wisely, and you maintain control over how others perceive you. In personal relationships, this principle can deepen connections. Sharing too much too soon can overwhelm others or make you seem less intriguing. By pacing your disclosures, revealing a personal story or vulnerability only when trust is earned, you build stronger, more meaningful bonds. For example, in a negotiation, disclosing all your priorities upfront hands your counterpart the upper hand. Instead, share just enough to keep the conversation moving while keeping your true bottom line close to the chest. This creates a dynamic where others are drawn to you, eager to uncover more, which amplifies your influence. The power of this approach lies in human psychology. People are naturally curious. When faced with ambiguity, they lean in, seeking to understand. This curiosity can translate into respect, interest, and even deference. Politicians, CEOs, and artists often master this art, revealing just enough to keep their audience engaged while maintaining an air of enigma. However, the goal isn't to be aloof or unapproachable, it's to control your narrative, ensuring that what you share aligns with your objectives. By practicing this selective openness, you become someone others listen to, not because you demand it, but because they can't help but want to know more. You're not the same person with everyone you meet. You adjust your tone, your approach, and even your demeanor based on who you're interacting with. This isn't about being inauthentic, it's about being effective. Machiavelli advised leaders to project qualities like mercy, faith, humanity, integrity, and piety, tailored to the audience's expectations. You already do this instinctively. You speak differently to your boss than to your best friend, and you present yourself differently in a formal meeting than at a casual gathering. The key is to make this adaptability intentional, turning it into a strategic tool for connection and influence. Every person you encounter has unique values, communication preferences, and emotional triggers. A one-size-fits-all approach will resonate with some but alienate others. The strategically intelligent study their audience, whether it's a colleague, a client, or a family member, and tailor their communication to match. If you're speaking to an analytical thinker, you emphasize data, logic, and evidence. If you're dealing with someone driven by emotions, you connect through stories and empathy. For practical minds, you focus on actionable steps, while for visionaries, you paint a compelling picture of the future. Imagine you're pitching a project to a diverse team. One member is a numbers-driven analyst, another is a creative idealist, and a third is a results-oriented pragmatist. A rigid presenter might deliver a single, generic pitch and hope it lands. A strategic communicator, however, adjusts their delivery. They lead with metrics for the analyst, a bold vision for the idealist, and practical next steps for the pragmatist. This isn't manipulation, it's meeting people where they are, making it easier for them to connect with your message. In personal life, this principle can transform relationships. Consider a friend who's going through a tough time. If they're analytical, offering logical advice might resonate most. If they're emotional, simply listening and validating their feelings could be more effective. By adapting your approach, you make others feel understood, which builds trust and strengthens bonds. This skill is especially powerful in leadership or negotiations, where understanding and aligning with others' perspectives can turn resistance into collaboration. Take the example of a salesperson dealing with a hesitant client. Instead of pushing a one-size-fits-all pitch, they observe the client's priorities. Perhaps the client values reliability over innovation. The salesperson then frames their product as a dependable solution, highlighting case studies of consistent performance. The client feels heard, and the sale becomes more likely. This adaptability doesn't mean abandoning your principles. It means presenting your authentic self in a way that resonates with others. However, there's a critical boundary. Adaptation should never compromise your core values or identity. Like water, which takes the shape of its container but remains fundamentally unchanged. You adjust your presentation while staying true to who you are. Over-adapting, becoming a chameleon who loses their essence, can erode trust and authenticity. The most effective people are like multifaceted gems. They show different sides depending on the light, but their core remains solid and unchanging. By mastering this balance, you become someone who can connect with anyone, from a skeptical investor to a supportive friend, making every interaction more impactful. You refuse to be enslaved by emotions, relationships, or the need for approval. This doesn't mean you're cold or detached from caring, it means you're free from being controlled by what you fear losing. Machiavelli famously noted that when choosing between love and fear, it's safer to be feared, as love is fleeting, but fear endures. This principle is about cultivating a mindset where no single outcome, person, or opinion has the power to dictate your actions or cloud your judgment. Most people are held hostage by their attachments. They stay in toxic jobs because they fear financial instability, They compromise their values in relationships to avoid loneliness. They silence their opinions to gain approval. These fears of loss, rejection, or failure make them vulnerable to manipulation. Strategic detachment flips this dynamic. What you're not afraid to lose cannot control you. This freedom gives you clarity, strength, and the ability to make decisions based on reason rather than desperation. Consider a business negotiation. One party is desperate for the deal to close. They've already mentally spent the profits and fear losing the opportunity. The other party, while interested, knows they have alternatives and is willing to walk away if the terms aren't right. The second party holds the power because their detachment allows them to negotiate from a position of strength. They're not emotionally tethered to the outcome, so they can think clearly and act decisively. In personal life, detachment can protect you from toxic dynamics. Imagine a friendship where one person constantly demands your time and energy, threatening to end the relationship if you don't comply. If you're afraid of losing them, you might give in, sacrificing your boundaries. But if you're detached from the need to keep every relationship at all costs, you can set healthy limits or even walk away, prioritizing your well-being. This isn't about indifference, it's about valuing yourself enough to choose relationships that align with your principles. Detachment also enhances decision-making. When you're not overly invested in being right, you can evaluate situations objectively. For instance, in a heated debate, most people focus on winning the argument, even at the cost of the relationship. A detached person asks, "What's my goal here? To prove a point or to resolve the issue?" This shift in perspective often leads to better outcomes, whether it's a compromise, a new understanding, or simply knowing when to disengage. This principle also guards against manipulation. If someone tries to control you by threatening to take away something, a job, a relationship, approval, you're immune if you're not afraid of the loss. Think of a workplace scenario where a manager threatens to fire an employee to enforce compliance. An attached employee might comply out of fear, but a detached one knows their worth and has options, rendering the threat powerless. This mindset doesn't mean you don't care about outcomes or relationships, it means you care. Without being paralyzed by that care, practicing detachment requires gradual steps. Start by letting go of small attachments, the need to win every argument, the desire to be liked by everyone, or the expectation that your plans must unfold exactly as envisioned. Over time, you'll notice a shift. People begin to respect you more because they sense you can't be easily swayed. Your decisions become clearer, your actions more deliberate. The paradox is that by needing less, you often gain more, whether it's respect, opportunities, or stronger relationships. Detachment isn't about isolation. It's about cultivating inner freedom that allows you to act with purpose and clarity in a chaotic world. True power doesn't shout, it whispers. Instead of demanding influence through force or volume, you create it through presence and patience. When others falter or reveal their weaknesses, your quiet confidence becomes the most commanding force in the room. Machiavelli observed that great achievements often involve risk, but the strategically intelligent minimize that risk by letting circumstances work in their favor rather than forcing outcomes. Silent leverage is about positioning yourself so that your mere presence shifts the dynamic of any situation. Instead of telling people what to do, you create conditions where they naturally align with your goals. Instead of demanding respect, you earn it by becoming indispensable. Instead of fighting for control, you allow others to hand it to you willingly. This approach requires patience, observation, and a willingness to let others reveal their intentions before you act. In conversations, silent leverage manifests as the power of the pause. Most people rush to fill awkward silences, often revealing more than they intended. By embracing silence, pausing thoughtfully before responding to a tough question, you control the rhythm of the interaction. This small act can make your words seem weightier, your presence more authoritative. For example, in a high-stakes meeting, instead of jumping to answer a challenging question, you pause, lock eyes with the questioner, and then respond calmly. The silence amplifies your response, making it feel deliberate and impactful. In negotiations, silent leverage comes from having unspoken alternatives. You don't need to boast about other options. The other party senses your confidence and negotiates more cautiously. Imagine selling a car. If you seem desperate to close the deal, the buyer will push for a lower price. But if you exude calm, implying you have other interested buyers, they're more likely to meet your terms without you saying a word. Your willingness to walk away without explicitly threatening it creates leverage. In relationships, silent leverage is about adding value without demanding recognition. By consistently supporting others, offering advice, solving problems, or simply being reliable, you become someone people naturally gravitate toward. A colleague who quietly resolves issues without seeking praise becomes the go-to person in a crisis, not because they demand it, but because their actions speak louder than words. Over time, this builds loyalty and influence without the need for overt power plays. This principle also applies in leadership. A leader who micromanages and demands compliance often breeds resentment. A leader who creates an environment where team members want to contribute by setting clear goals, offering resources, and trusting their team gains loyalty organically. For instance, a manager who empowers employees to solve problems independently fosters a culture where the team seeks their guidance, not because it's required, but because they value it. The key to silent leverage is patience. Unlike those who chase instant results, you plant seeds and let them grow. You invest in relationships, skills, and opportunities, trusting that your consistent actions will yield influence over time. This mindset requires discipline, as it resists the temptation of immediate gratification. However, the rewards are profound. People begin to seek your input, value your presence, and follow your lead without you asking. You become a quiet force, shaping outcomes subtly but powerfully, ethically. Silent leverage should never manipulate others into harmful decisions. Instead, it's about guiding people toward outcomes that benefit everyone. A mentor who listens patiently and offers advice only when asked can steer a mentee toward better choices without forcing their hand. The goal is to create win-win scenarios, where your influence enhances others' lives as much as your own. Silent leverage isn't passive, it's active, strategic, and deliberate. Executed with the precision of a chess master moving pieces into place. You become a mirror, reflecting people's deepest desires, fears, and motivations back to them. When they feel you understand them, they trust you, and that trust becomes influence. Machiavelli noted that people judge more by appearances than by substance, and those who master this principle use it to connect deeply without revealing their full hand. This isn't about deceit, it's about empathy and strategic communication. Most people are so focused on expressing themselves that they miss what others truly need. Strategic intelligence requires listening not just to words, but to the emotions, needs, and fears beneath them. Every person you meet is silently asking, do you see me? Do you understand me? Do you value me? By answering these questions through your actions and words, you create a powerful connection. This technique involves reflecting not just what people say, but what they mean, amplifying their unspoken emotions and desires. For example, if a colleague complains, "I'm so tired of this job," a typical response might be to suggest job hunting tips. But a strategic listener hears the subtext, perhaps a need for recognition or a fear of stagnation, and responds, "It sounds like you're craving a role where your talents are truly valued." This reflection makes them feel understood, fostering trust. By addressing their deeper needs, you position yourself as someone who gets them, which builds influence naturally. This approach is powerful in leadership, sales, and relationships. In sales, for instance, a customer might express frustration about a product's cost. Instead of debating price, you reflect their underlying concern, perhaps a need for reliability, and say, "It seems like you're looking for something that won't let you down when it matters most." By framing your product as a solution to their core need, you align with their priorities, making them more likely to buy. In personal relationships, this technique can diffuse conflicts. If a partner snaps, "You never listen to me," a defensive response might escalate the argument. Instead, reflecting their emotion, "It sounds like you feel overlooked, and that must be really frustrating," shows you understand their pain, opening the door to a constructive conversation. This isn't about agreeing with them. It's about validating their experience, which builds trust and de-escalates tension. The key is to reflect the positive version of what people express. If someone is overwhelmed, you might highlight their dedication. It seems like you're juggling so much because you care deeply about getting it right. If they're angry, you might reflect their passion for fairness. I can see how much you value things being done the right way. This approach taps into a universal human need to feel seen and understood, making people more receptive to your ideas strategically. This technique allows you to frame your suggestions in terms that resonate with others' values. If someone prioritizes security, you present your idea as a path to stability. If they value adventure, you emphasize freedom and exploration. This isn't changing your message, it's packaging it in a way that aligns with their psychological profile. In a workplace, for example, proposing a risky new project to a cautious manager might fail unless you frame it as a low-risk, high-reward opportunity with built-in safeguards ethically. This principle should be used to build genuine connections, not to exploit. When you reflect people's needs with sincerity, you help them clarify their own desires, leading to better outcomes for everyone. A parent using this technique might help a teenager articulate their fears about the future, guiding them toward confident decisions. The goal is to foster trust and collaboration, creating relationships where everyone feels valued and understood. The world isn't black and white, it's a spectrum of gray. Strategic intelligence means operating effectively in this ambiguity, making decisions that prioritize outcomes over appearances. Machiavelli argued that when love and fear cannot coexist, it's safer to be feared, as fear ensures compliance where love may falter. This principle isn't about abandoning morals, it's about recognizing that real-world challenges often demand pragmatic choices over idealistic ones. Pure morality is a luxury few can afford in complex situations. Sometimes being nice enables harmful behavior. Sometimes doing the right thing in the moment leads to worse long-term consequences. For example, imagine you're a manager who discovers an employee has been dishonest with clients, damaging the company's reputation. The kind response might be to offer coaching and a second chance. But what about the honest employees who suffer from this behavior? What about the clients who've been misled? A strategic decision might involve removing the employee, even if it feels harsh, to protect the greater good. In personal life, this principle applies to tough conversations. If a friend is in a toxic relationship, the nice response might be to stay supportive and avoid criticism. But true care might require a difficult truth. I see how much this is hurting you, and I'm worried you're losing yourself. This choice prioritizes their long-term well-being over short-term comfort, even if it risks tension. Ambiguous morality is about focusing on results rather than how you're perceived. It's asking, what action serves the greatest good, rather than what makes me look good. This requires courage and accountability, as you must own the consequences of your decisions, even when they're unpopular. For instance, a community leader might push for a controversial policy like stricter environmental regulations, knowing it will benefit future generations, even if it alienates some in the present. The danger lies in using this principle to justify selfish or unethical behavior. To avoid this, set clear ethical boundaries. What lines will you never cross? What values are non-negotiable? Within those limits, allow yourself to make pragmatic choices. In negotiations, for example, full transparency might weaken your position, so you share strategically while staying honest. In leadership, you might prioritize team morale over individual egos, even if it means making tough calls. This mindset requires flexibility. What's right in one context might be ineffective in another. Absolute honesty might strengthen a close friendship, but undermine a delicate business deal. By understanding these nuances, you can act decisively without being rigid. The goal isn't universal approval, it's effectiveness and integrity. In a world where simple solutions rarely suffice, you don't broadcast every detail of your life. In an era of oversharing, where social media invites constant disclosure, strategic restraint sets you apart. The less people know about you, the more they assume, and those assumptions can work in your favor. Machiavelli noted that people are easily swayed by appearances, and those who control what they reveal control how they're perceived. Human curiosity drives this principle. When information is scarce, let people's minds work overtime to fill the gaps, making them more attentive to what you do share. Think of a public figure who rarely discusses their personal life. Their occasional, carefully chosen revelations, a charity project, a personal milestone, carry immense weight because they're rare. In contrast, constant oversharing dilutes impact, making you predictable and less intriguing. In professional settings, this means pacing your contributions. If you're a consultant, revealing all your expertise in an initial meeting might win short-term praise, but leave you with little to offer later. Instead, share insights gradually, positioning yourself as a continuous source of value. In a job interview, hinting at a unique skill without fully elaborating creates intrigue, prompting follow-up questions that let you shine. In social contexts, controlled exposure builds stronger relationships. Sharing your entire life story on a first date can overwhelm or bore the other person. Instead, revealing personal details over time as trust develops creates a sense of intimacy and discovery. For example, mentioning a passion for travel casually, then later sharing a vivid story about a transformative trip, keeps the other person engaged and curious. Digitally, this principle is critical. Every post, comment, or photo you share becomes part of your permanent record, shaping perceptions among people you may never meet. A strategically curated online presence highlighting professional achievements or meaningful moments, while avoiding trivial oversharing, enhances your reputation. For instance, a professional who shares thoughtful industry insights on LinkedIn stands out more than someone posting daily personal updates. Timing is also key. The same information can have different impacts depending on when it's shared. Revealing a personal struggle early in a relationship might seem needy, but sharing it later, when it's relevant to a shared challenge, builds trust. In negotiations, holding back a key priority until the right moment can shift the dynamic in your favor. Without seeming manipulative, the balance is crucial. Share enough to build genuine connections, but not so much that you lose your strategic edge. Oversharing can lead to being stereotyped or underestimated, while strategic disclosure lets you shape your narrative. A colleague who gradually reveals their expertise becomes a respected problem solver. A friend who shares vulnerabilities thoughtfully becomes a trusted confidant. By controlling what you reveal and when, you maintain influence over how you're perceived, ensuring your story aligns with your goals. You're not here to win debates or look good, you're here to achieve results. Most people get distracted by ego-driven battles, proving they're right, seeking validation, or focusing on effort over impact. Strategic intelligence cuts through this noise, prioritizing outcomes above all else. Machiavelli suggested that promises made in the past may need to be broken if they no longer serve the present, a reminder that flexibility and results trump rigid adherence to appearances. Outcome obsession shifts your perspective. Instead of asking, "How can I prove my point?" you ask, "What am I trying to achieve?" Instead of "How do I look good?" you ask, "What actions will get me to my goal?" This mindset transforms how you approach challenges, from workplace projects to personal growth. In a team meeting, for instance, instead of arguing to defend your idea, you focus on the project's success, even if it means compromising or adopting someone else's approach. The result matters more than your ego.